Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our session, Managing Affiliate Nexus, an Affordable Solution. I'd like to introduce you to our presenters today. Joining us is Melissa Guzmir, who's the Alliance Sales Manager from Taxify.com. Melissa is an expert in research, analysis, forecasting, and strategy, especially when it comes to working with individual businesses that are dealing with potential tax situations such as Affiliate Nexus. My name is Janine Crooks. Come on here. There we go. My name is Janine Crooks, and I'm the Client Services Manager at awin.com for the US and Canada. I've been in the affiliate marketing industry for 18 years, and I've been deeply involved in Affiliate Nexus legislation issues, to the point of even testifying before the House and Senate Finance Committees for the state of Colorado. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Affiliate Window. Our company was founded in the year 2000 and has grown tremendously in that time. We now have over 900 employees in 15 offices in 11 different countries. We work with over 6,000 advertisers for an average of 5 years or more and generate approximately 7.2 billion euros in sales on an annual basis. So I just wanted to let you know what our interest is in this particular topic, as obviously it's near and dear to our heart. Before we begin, I'd also like to just quickly mention that this information is being presented strictly for informational purposes. Since individual needs can vary, please make sure to contact your legal counsel or your financial counsel for your particular needs. If you don't have someone that's appropriate in either one of those areas, I'm more than happy to make some recommendations of people that we're very happy with, one of whom is on our call with us today. So to begin, let's start with what is Nexus. Nexus, in fact, is the linking of two or more things. So for Affiliate Nexus, which sometimes has been called Click-Through Nexus, it's the creation of a tax liability with an out-of-state company through the use of affiliates within a given state. So when the state was trying to figure out some way to tax online sales, they needed to find a link between an out-of-state company and their state. And they identified that as affiliates. And so they said, since you've got affiliates in our state, you therefore have a tax liability presence, you must collect sales tax. One of the newer terms that's now being involved in our industry is economic nexus, where two things are joined based on an economic connection. And what that really involves is some way that because you are selling to residents of our state, we believe you have an economic connection to our state, and therefore you're required to collect sales tax. Here's an example of affiliate nexus. Perhaps an Idaho-based company accepts affiliate from Illinois into their program. Illinois, based on their current legislation, would then require that Idaho-based company to nevertheless connect Illinois state sales tax from all Illinois residents and remit that to the state. I think in order to put this in perspective, it's important to know the story of Nexus. It all began back in 1992 when a catalog firm called Quill was when North Dakota tried to force Quill Corporation to collect sales tax, and it went to court. And what it did was it went all the way through the court system, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who ruled that it was impossible for a state to collect sales tax from another state. They were not able to put that obligation on the state. So Supreme Court said, sorry, North Dakota, you can't force Quill to collect sales tax in your state because they have no physical presence. But given the timing of this, e-commerce was not on the horizon yet. However, states realized that they were losing a tremendous amount of tax revenue as the internet grew. Ultimately, a study was commissioned through the University of Tennessee in 2009, which forecast the amount of taxes that were being lost by states to e-commerce. And the inability of states to force out-of-state companies to collect sales tax. They forecast that during the 6-year period from 2006 to 2012, approximately $52 billion in tax revenue was not being collected. The actual results of this, though, have shown that the forecast was off by up to 300%. So when you see various states trying to quote the University of Tennessee study as the Bible on how much tax revenue is being lost, know that they are far, far, far off on their calculations. New York was the very first state to pass this legislation back in June of 2008. They said, because you are working with New York affiliates, out-of-state company, you are being forced to collect and remit sales tax to us. Within weeks, North Carolina and Rhode Island followed suit with almost identical legislation. The result? Amazon immediately severed all ties with New York, North Carolina, and Rhode Island-based affiliates. Hundreds of other merchants followed Amazon's example and did the same thing. It was a very difficult time, as some people's incomes were literally wiped out overnight. The legislation passed on Tuesday, and I believe by Thursday, all the affiliates had been dropped by almost every company. As we move forward to today, currently there are 21 states with economic nexus, click-through nexus type laws, but there's an additional 20 states that have pushed for economic nexus. And that number varies greatly. It's constantly expanding, or has the potential to expand, because new legislation is being introduced on a monthly basis. I think there were 6 additional states just within the past month who have started some form of legislation to trigger nexus in their area. The biggest states remain New York and Illinois and California. All 3 have implemented this, and based on their population, obviously have the greatest effect on this. But overall, this legislation is affecting over 70% of the U.S. population. The laws vary widely in terms of how they are written, what is going to establish nexus. There's different thresholds by state. In some cases, it's $10,000 for the year in sales to the state. In some, it's $10,000 by quarters. For some, it's $50,000. That's the threshold that's necessary before you have to start collecting taxes. And what they usually do is we'll look at the 4 preceding quarters to determine whether you are subject to it. There are different notification procedures. In some cases, the merchant is required to notify the consumer. In some cases, the merchant is required to notify the state of sales that have taken place. And in addition to that, there are different reporting, collection, and remittance processes. Some states, based on the amount that you generate in sales, will require you to report on a yearly basis. If you're doing more, it perhaps is a quarterly basis. If you're doing a great deal of transactions in that state, it might be a monthly basis. And the important thing to really remember now is that affiliates are not necessarily required to generate affiliate nexus. Melissa, would you like to go over this one?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, so every single state has their own criteria for what gives a company nexus, or in other words, an obligation to collect and remit sales tax in a particular state or even locality. So, I mean, for example, if you're attending a trade show in Minnesota for more than 4 days, then they are going to require you to collect and remit sales tax for the state of Minnesota. In Florida, simply having independent contractors that are doing sales for your company gives you nexus. Massachusetts, if you're doing any in-person client services, they also would like you to collect and remit sales tax on your sales in Massachusetts. In Illinois, if you're using your own company-owned vehicles to deliver merchandise, then you're using the resources of that state, and they want you to collect and remit sales tax. So, as you can see, these are just a few examples. Every single state is a little different, and even some states are even looking to pass legislation regarding economic nexus, and some have already done that. So the criteria is going to vary by state. we always advise folks to check out the state websites to see the current rules and regulations for sales tax for that state. And if you're ever unsure, to consult with a sales tax professional, an attorney or an accountant.
One of the things that I found interesting lately is now they're trying to establish Nexus based on the use of servers in that state. So if your hosting company has, a server farm out of, what you thought was their original state, maybe they're based in Colorado, but they have a server farm in Illinois, that may trigger Nexus as well. So
yeah,
they're looking for every possible way they can because, they're hungry for revenue. So it's definitely making things more interesting.
Yeah, typical rule of thumb, is what we've seen is people or property in a state, typically. Yeah.
They're going for it. So now as we take a look at the future on Nexus, there's a current movement called Kill Quill. And what this is doing is states like South Dakota, Arkansas, and Indiana, and actually a few more have joined the fray now, have passed legislation specifically designed to trigger lawsuits. And those lawsuits are intended to work their way up all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States to ask the SCOTUS to re-examine the Quill decision. One of the judges on the Supreme Court, Justice Anthony Kennedy, has actually said that it may be time to re-examine Quill, and that invigorated these states to think it's a good possibility, let's give it a try. Lawsuits right now are currently working their way through courts in all of those states, heading towards the Supreme Court at the state level, and they're hoping from there it will move on to the federal level. However, 2 lawsuits that have moved to the federal level have been rejected by the Supreme Court. They refuse to review them. And so therefore, even if something moves all the way to the Supreme Court, there's no guarantee that they will hear it or change their ruling. The Supreme Court is not known for reversing decisions that they made in the past, so this one's going to be interesting to watch. From a federal standpoint, a legislative resolution is unlikely right now. There's 4 different bills that have been introduced or have been discussed, and none of them are moving forward. The Marketplace Fairness Act did pass in the Senate, but it hasn't passed in the House. The Remote Transactions Parity Act hasn't come up for any kind of a vote. The No Regulation Without Representation Act has not been initiated yet. It hasn't been presented to either of the houses of Congress. And the Online Sales Simplification Act is actually something old that they're trying to adapt for the future. So it's probably unlikely, given all of the other activities that are going on at the federal level, that anything's going to happen within the 2017 calendar year. And I can't see any farther down the future than that. But right now, a federal solution really doesn't seem to be in the works. One of the things that I also wanted to cover was some of the international implications, since we have some international attendees joining us today. It's important for you to know that if you have a U.S. presence and you're an international advertiser, whatever state you have a location in, whether it be a warehouse or an office or even a remote worker, you are therefore required to collect sales tax for that state if they have any kind of click-through nexus or economic nexus law in place. The fact that you've got a physical presence there doesn't even require those laws. You have a physical presence, you must collect sales tax. You are also expected to collect sales tax for all the other states that have nexus legislation. So obviously over 70% of the U.S. population. If you have no U.S. presence, then you are still expected to collect sales tax for all of the states that have any kind of nexus legislation at all. Though these states officially don't have jurisdiction, they can't come to your home office and say you owe us money. Several of the states are trying to craft legislation that's retroactive. And so you are much safer to go ahead and collect and remit those sales taxes now, rather than running the risk of having them say, you owe us money for the last 3 to 5 years. It's gotten to that point now where it's just safer to follow all the rules and collect those taxes. It's just gotten too big in the US. One of the things that I think it's important to also see is the affiliate options on this. We actually have a couple of affiliates that are joining us today, and I wanted them to understand kind of what they can do about this. And the answer is they can't really do a lot. Some in the past have done things like registered their business in another state, saying that's really where we're located and that state doesn't have any kind of economic nexus law or click-through nexus law, so therefore I'm not going to trigger nexus for my merchants. That's not a long-term solution. Even the states where many of them have gone to try and avoid triggering nexus are now looking at passing nexus legislation, so it's not going to be appropriate there. There could also be legal implications because they are claiming to be based in another state and trying to hide the fact that they actually have a presence in states with nexus. So not the best practice to do. At one time, affiliates moved from one state to another in order to try and avoid triggering nexus and still being able to work with their merchants. Fat Wallet was the biggest example of this, and you can actually find a video on YouTube of Fat Wallet picking up and moving their entire company from Illinois to Wisconsin in less than 3 weeks because it was that or their whole business would go under when Illinois passed that legislation. The best thing an affiliate can do, if rejected, is to help the advertiser understand their options. And that's part of what we wanted to do now, was help you to see what kind of options are available to manage Nexus, because it's not as scary as it once was. A lot of new tools and resources are available that didn't exist when this first legislation was passed in 2008. It's not scary anymore. So let's take a look at it from a risk versus reward standpoint. The risk is affiliates can trigger Nexus, but many other circumstances can as well. So removing affiliates from your program from any given state is not going to help you avoid Nexus in that state. As Melissa shared before with those examples, if you've got someone, for example, in some states who literally just landed at the airport on their way from your office to some other city, just landing at the airport in some states is enough to trigger Nexus. So cutting affiliates isn't going to help you. But having all the affiliates from all the different states in your program can generate substantial revenue. So it's really worth finding a solution to deal with Nexus rather than trying to just plain cut affiliates. That's not going to get you where you need to be. So the bottom line here is if you conduct any kind of e-commerce, you're subject to Nexus laws in numerous states. If you're online, you owe the tax. You have to collect it. Affiliates aren't your only source of Nexus, so removing them isn't going to remove the situation. The laws are complicated. They vary state by state. Seriously, even the experts have to constantly stay on top of this, and that's their only job. So therefore, we recommend outsourcing compliance as the best way to ensure that you're going to meet all of the requirements that you've got from each state because they vary so much. And so to that end, what we would like to do is now present an affordable solution. Melissa, would you like to help us learn more about Taxify?
Yeah, thanks, Janine. Happy to.
Great. There we go.
Yeah, wonderful. So Taxify is an affordable solution to not only keep all of your transactions for all states across the U.S. in one place so that you always have a secure audit trail, but it's also a very affordable solution to automate your sales tax filings and remittance. We do cover all states throughout the U.S. and all jurisdictions. There's about 14,000 different combinations or different sales tax combinations across the U.S. and Taxify can help you support you in that area. So Taxify is one of 8 different product lines within Sovos Compliance. Sovos Compliance is the 30-plus year leader in compliance solutions, and we've got various product lines that are spread out, but Taxify specifically is dedicated to the small to medium business space and automating sales tax for those companies. So as we've just talked about, states are becoming more aggressive as more brick and mortar retail stores move over to e-commerce and close down their physical locations. States are wanting their piece of the pie. They're wanting a bigger piece of the pie. They want that missed revenue. So they are starting to become more aggressive and to implement further legislation to ensure that companies are collecting and remitting sales tax. As part of Sovos, we do have about 40 sales tax attorneys and research experts on staff. So we do assure that you are covered, that our rates are accurate, we're using the right forms, and that we are complying with the 200,000 plus sales tax laws across the U.S. And on top of that, we are government certified. So we are Streamlined Sales Tax certified, which is a program that includes about 24 states to streamline and scale the sales tax process for businesses. And I like to think of Taxify really being able to help your business in a variety of ways. Oops, I think it went to the next.
There you go.
Is it not pulling up the?
Not pulling up. No, it's not like animation, and it did in the rehearsal. Oh well.
Yeah, no worries. Well, I can still speak. That's our nice logo. You can all see it, but I can still speak to it. So really the three areas that we're going to give you is coverage, so 50 state filing and remittance services, even sales tax calculation in some cases where we are the tax calc engine. We also are going to give you lots of love, we'd like to call it. So we have a very highly responsive, dedicated support team that can be reached easily, so they're able to answer your questions. They even have various on-call hours, so we have a lot of coverage there. And of course, just accuracy and compliance. So, really ensuring that you're keeping up with deadlines, you're not getting late fees and penalties. We're really going to help, protect your business. So the first step, was kind of somewhat covered already when Jean was talking about really Nexus, but once you decide, or once it's been determined where you have an obligation to collect and remit, where you have somewhat of a business presence that makes you have Nexus, the first step is to get a sales tax permit for that particular state. And it's part of the voluntary disclosure process with that state. You can go through this on your own, or you can hire a professional. Taxify has a very strong network of partners, and we have many of our partners that actually will complete the voluntary disclosure process. So you need to actually register with the state or the locality before you can start collecting and remitting. If you start collecting sales tax and you're not registered to do so, not good. You could definitely get into some trouble doing that. You can go directly, again, we said, this can be done on your own if you've got sufficient time, but most of the sales tax permits can be obtained by going to the online website for that state, or again, by hiring someone to do it for you. And then we do have a state-by-state guide on our website that will really show you where all the different websites are for each state, the forms that you need to use, that kind of thing. So it can be done on your own, but keep in mind it can be rather tedious, and sometimes getting these permits and going through this voluntary disclosure process can take 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. So once the state has processed your sales tax registration, you're going to be given a permit. So that basically gives you an account number or a permit number, and that will then allow you to collect and remit sales tax in that state or that locality. They are going to pick how frequent they want you to file the sales tax return and remit the sales tax that you've collected. And it's really dependent on a number of factors. So it could be your gross volume, your sales volume that they're looking at. It could be a number of things, but they are going to be the ones that confirm if they want you to file monthly or quarterly or semi-annual or annual. So just to kind of recap really what we've spoke about and to break it out in maybe a different manner, we do have 3 real levels of accuracy with Taxify. So we're going to be able to ensure that you're taxing your products correctly. We do support a set number of taxability base codes, and those will be mapped automatically as they come over to our system. So you're ensuring that your products are taxed accurately. We also have that jurisdiction support. So we can support all 14,000 different sales tax combination rates and then all jurisdictions within the United States. And also any exemptions that may be factor into that, we can also provide you with exemption support as well. So Taxify has a number of add-ons, or we'd like to call them integrations, already in place. From an accounting standpoint, we're looking at QuickBooks and Xero, which means we are integrated, we are connected to those platforms, and once you connect your Taxify account to those platforms, we will automatically pull your transactional data over and use that data for automated sales tax filings and remittance. From an e-commerce perspective, we're looking at Amazon, Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce, and there are a number of other ones as well. And for payment processors, we have solutions built for Square, Stripe, and PayPal. Taxify also has an open API, so it can easily be integrated with any custom systems and platforms in addition to all the things that you've seen listed here. Taxify is incredibly easy to set up. So although we've got the sophistication and the content from Sovos Compliance, the 30-year leader in compliance and reporting, our platform is really easy to use. So we've got the simple platform designed for small to medium businesses, but a lot of sophistication backing us up. So setup really can take about 5 minutes, depending how many states you have Nexus in. It's just a matter of telling us, where are you located, where are you currently collecting and remitting sales tax, how frequent are you filing, and what's your sales tax permit number. Once those details are inputted, then we will ask you to connect to the proper platform, whether it be QuickBooks, or whether it be Amazon, or whether it be Magento, or maybe it's your custom e-commerce store. Or you could also do simple import to get your data into the tool. And then file, which is what we handle. We handle the filing and the remittance, everything from monthly all the way to as little as annual reports. And a couple, just this slide really talks to how we've been certified by the state of Colorado, and hopefully we'll get certifications with more states just like this. We are SST certified for the 24 streamlined sales tax state, but Colorado in particular has certified Taxify by Sovos as the first kind of end-to-end sales tax software solution, which means anybody using Taxify and for Colorado sales tax filing and remittance purposes are completely held harmless for any tax gaps because the state of Colorado has certified us as the software provider. And clients are not held liable in the event that taxes are calculated incorrectly because we're working so closely with Colorado, they've certified us as their software solution for sales tax. So So to kind of wrap things up here, just to recap, again, we do provide 50 state coverage. So, we're automatically ensuring that you're complying with all the different rules and all the different tax jurisdictions. We are SOVOS compliant. Taxify is SOVOS. We're just one of 8 different product lines within SOVOS. And SOVOS has been doing this for 30 plus years. So they really are a trusted leader in the compliance and tax space. And of course, our support model is fantastic. We have a dedicated staff here in Boulder and our offices in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and outside of Boston. So you can get a live person on the phone to answer any technical type questions, or if you need any help at all setting up your account, we're here to help you out and dedicate our time to getting you set up to automate your sales tax.
So now as we talk about the conclusions here, the takeaways that we really wanted to leave with you are these. If a company conducts any kind of e-commerce, you're subject to Nexus laws in numerous states. The laws are complicated and they vary by state. Outsourcing is the best way to ensure compliance, and the partner that we have chosen on this is Taxify.com. We fully vetted them as a resource to ensure that you achieve compliance. So I hope that that's been helpful for you. If you'd like to contact us, here's Melissa's email and my email. And now what we can do is see if anybody has any questions. We'll be more than happy to answer those for you. If you'd like to just put them on chat, or actually I can give everybody the opportunity to speak using their microphone. There we go. Melissa, can you perhaps share for just a moment? I had someone ask about working with you, and one of the things that I think is amazing about Taxify is your interface and your dashboard. So if you could share for a few moments about some of the things that they've got there on why it's so wonderful to do that. I'm in love with your dashboard because to me it's just so easy to visually instantly see how everything works.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want me to share my screen or just talk more to the features?
Just talk would be fine, I think. Unless you've got one already open, go for it.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I can definitely speak to it. So yeah, the platform is really easy to use. I mean, setup is really broken up into about 4 different steps. So, for starters, we just need to know, your main company location, where all your additional locations are that you are currently collecting and remitting sales tax. Then once we have that detail, we need to know, how frequent are you filing in each and every one of those states or localities, and, what's your permit number, e-file credentials, really the necessities to allow us to automatically file on a client's behalf. Once we've done that, it's a matter of connecting to the right platform, whether it be an accounting platform, an e-commerce platform, or a custom-built, integration, so that data can actually flow into the tool. Once we've got data in there and the settings are all set up accurately, our dashboard provides really great high-level detail so that really you can pop into Taxify and you can take a look at your dashboard and get enough details where you don't have to drill much into the detail if you don't want to, but you can. You have very granular transactional data. You have access to all the returns that we have filed for you. You can download them. You can just view them, print them. You will see returns that are coming due that we will file. A lot of visibility into what's going on at all moments in time. The dashboard can even give you a snapshot for the month in arrears. So it's going to tell you, for example, we're in April. So if you were to log into Taxify, your dashboard's going to tell you, okay, for March 1 through March 31st, this is how much tax is due. And if you're a quarterly or if you're a monthly filer, you're going to have something due every month. But if you're a quarterly filer and something isn't due, or it's not a quarterly filing month, you're not going to have anything due, right? But we're going to give you, your gross sales, your taxable sales, how many returns you have due this month, a state summary map that shows you as you put your cursor over each state, how much sales you had in that state, how much tax was collected, that kind of thing. A channel breakdown where all your data is coming from, whether it was an import or whether you were connected to the right platform. And then a monthly tax summary graph, which is really a bar graph that shows you, how many returns are coming due in the future months, and how much sales tax is due, in the months coming so far, and how much have you paid in the months prior. So you get a lot of good analytics to be able to help you make good business decisions.
That sounds great. Well, I think we've covered the questions here. Hopefully we've been able to help everyone. And if you have any questions, as I said, please feel free to email us. Thank you for attending with us today. And if we can be of any service, please feel free to give us a call. Everyone, have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.